one of the few people a committee no frame me say oh me propose am de buy no o ma hwe ye pa ne ade na me das ti o wa kai me nim say ade o ma fa ni na che say ade ma dwene ho pa say de bebu apart oh o ma accept former constituency chairman, former regional, former national, former MPs, former ministers, former DCs, nina. Polling station almost does one on my juma. I want the mountain ye. Did me sorry or meeting them? Tina mountain ye na say. Almost you, yeah, progressive expansion. Now the two become. And was a two. One and a once in the back point. A dear mo system nan crofose enye na e de trouble aba eni braba. Yemfa adadafo no meka ho. Omo de nyame na mra point o ma che. Na ma ade no enye more inclusive, enye complete. People will feel a sense of belonging again. And then it is a more democratic arrangement, more reflective of the base of our party. It me no sadia. Let's see a presidential candidate no first. He said the mechanic. No. Oh, say na agenda for oh ma fa presidential you know the news. Community Japan says top from bottom. This is my top from bottom. My bottom from top. Me say the current situation in woman division say ya ban. See it need be ye to say the mechanic and I put it in fine print and I sent it around. That's right. It was clear, say, after we have achieved the expansion of the electoral college. And so no my Daniel did. Now ebinum kra say me nam kofa bae and I wouldn't say them and be asem na dream panama de bae. Man tiase. Party is so funny say nipa nyi nipa ni. We are there cry now you ho ya there dwene papa na obi dwene bone ama. So enti ye call meeting and I make sure that two on for say yen concentrating on expansion no and no here party for no. Na yema message of expansion no mo enko out. Na encheri bia ye be national delegates conference. So honestly person take a decision for the presidential leyina. Yenye. Oh, be anyantu. Omsi yenye nzia. Enti ye meeting no. And my party the only thing that everybody is talking about is the presidential primaries here, 31st. Meanwhile, it's not the date of the election, but those who are going to be part of the electoral college. And only here.
I remember President Kufuor clearly when he was questioned that he hadn't been successful in his enterprise. He said that, but that's not, he's not the only one who is going to govern. He has the ability to actually bring in quite a diverse people who can actually perform. And that's where we have the men came in. You know, so in those days, you can literally, when we're young, you can literally stand on your feet and mention not less than 10 MPP people who were stellar. You know, you can talk about J.H. Mensah, you can talk about Nado himself, you can talk about President Kufuor, you can talk about Selby. These were people who were leaders of the MP, and each of them could be a presidential candidate. You can imagine the way Kufuor could pull these people together, these egos. I mean, I remember when I was in secondary school, St. Augustine's College, and then you hear Sikalele man, Hakman Owusu coming to campus, and all of us have lined up to see him. These were heavyweights, all right? How many of the MPP leaders can you count on your fingertips right now as I speak? The party was reduced to 3 names: Nanado, Free SHS, and Baumia. Beyond that, you couldn't remember anybody. So clearly, since 2008 onwards, this party had become personality dominant as opposed to collective. And that's what Dr. Tekene. So let me just
get your thought very briefly. The reason
MPP has retrogressed.
The reason
have to accept that.
The reason
weak leadership, weak reasoning, and weak solutions.
if they said that I am sure that they are good men and women, their hearts are in the right place, but their brains are in the wrong place. I think they were consulting the same people they were talking to who were telling them we're going to win in a landslide. I think this is a very bad decision, doesn't serve the party well, and like the speaker said, it's anti-democratic, because for general principles as well as even the party's own principles, that it generally does not make sense to select your flag bearer that early in an election cycle when the government that came in would have spent barely a year in office. The issues that will be salient in the next election have not developed yet. And historically, most parties don't do that. If you think about it, if the Republicans had chosen Trump, or they had chosen a candidate in 2022 for 2024, it would not have been Trump, because he was very unpopular. But as the election cycle developed, he gained traction because his message seemed to resonate with the issues. After all, we don't vote in a vacuum. In 1860, Lincoln wasn't very popular when the cycle started. By the time it came around, slavery was coming to the fore and it was getting stronger. Jimmy Carter wouldn't have been the candidate if they voted in 1973. By 76, he was a strong candidate. And not only that, the MPP's own history. You look at the Hyman Committee in 2009 and the Safumafu Committee in 2020 have all strongly suggested that we broaden the franchise so more people can vote. And it actually in 2010 or so, I was in the room when Nanado and Alan Martin and all those people committed to ask the young ones that one man, one vote was coming during the next election, and a decade later, it hasn't come. It will seem as if there are some people who are afraid of everybody voting. So when I see all those people going through contorted arguments about how we should add former chairman and this boy like Kwabena Japan, I will ask him, why are we afraid of letting everybody vote?
Mesamo akwa babiom de bar TV XYZ so inside policies jumedi na sesia no putuprum ye ko na yakohwe the suspended chief justice ye Mami Gertrude Saba Tukunu the press conference bia ye konko fambra ye ba ye to inside politics jumedi no so.
The difficulty with this is because they are the independent body charged with the duty to conduct the hearing. What I have in my hand from the president could be different from what they have. And I cannot assume that the two copies are the same. Indeed, no tribunal does that. No tribunal will tell you that before you came here, we know that your landlord wrote to you, so we are looking into what your landlord wrote to you about, and so that is what we will be inquiring into. They will give you what the charges are that they are supposed to be inquiring into. Second, the petition itself has not been admitted into evidence and subjected to cross-examination by me or my lawyers. In this case, because they have permitted the petitioner who has so far given evidence of whose petition we are supposed to be dealing with, Mr. Daniel Ofori, they permitted him not to testify and confirm on oath what his petition is. There is no petition on the table. There is no evidence given by him on oath. He has not authorized anyone to testify on his behalf. So what are we inquiring into? Even though there is no constitutional instrument passed to regulate the proceedings of an Article 146 committee, Ghana has a constitutional instrument regulating the work of all commissions or committees of inquiry. This is the Commissions of Inquiry Practice and Procedure Rules 2010, CI 65. And in Article 1467 of our Constitution, if a committee is set up for the removal of a Chief Justice, the committee is supposed to, quote-unquote, inquire into the petition, the answer, and the prima facie case. Therefore, we are dealing with a committee of inquiry. In spite of this, on 15th May, the committee decided, without listening to my lawyer, that it will conduct the hearing as not as an inquiry, but as litigation. So they rejected the use of CI 65, which was created for the regulation of inquiries, and said they will use the High Court Civil Procedure Rules, CI 47. Then they decided that each petitioner can conduct his case as he sees fit. So they don't need to present the petition to them. Then they decided that the petitioners can call public officials to confirm what they themselves have not testified to. So, ladies and gentlemen, because the proceedings are being conducted as if it is a normal litigation between the petitioners and myself, their lawyers now choose and pick which parts of the evidence that public officials present to put on the table. This is also in violation of known rules regarding proceedings of a committee of inquiry.
You're watching our live coverage of the Chief Justice's news conference happening right now. She's been touching on a number of issues, some of which we have heard already because
the laying of the report. And if I should quote, the then Chief Whip, quote, Mr. Speaker, I said, Mr. Speaker, if the majority lays this report, there will be chaos in the House, unquote. Mr. Speaker, our decision in opposing and voting against all the nominees is not against the person of these nominees. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, they are eating a forbidden fruit.
My lawyers are left to guess which allegations in the petitions that I received on 27th March are supposed to be the subject matter of the testimonies that the witnesses have referred to. Anyone who has been to the Circuit Court or the High Court and made subject to the rules CI 47 will know that those rules never conceived that a hearing can be conducted without the claims, the defenses, and the issues being carefully laid out before the parties and accepted by all of them before a hearing starts. Ladies and gentlemen, it is this total absence of compliance with all known rules of fair hearing that has caused my lawyers to file applications for judicial review in the High Court to declare all the proceedings void. Because the clear danger is that through this flagrant violation of CI 47, and the darkness of the current proceedings being held in camera behind the walls of a Edu Lodge, my lawyers and I can come to the end of the proceedings. The evidence will show that every one of those allegations in the petitions that were given to me on 27th March is unfounded and untrue. And yet, the committee can dig up some allegation from whatever documents they claim to be having from the president, which they have not shown to me, and purport to enter a recommendation for my removal on that basis. Allow me to say that this is totally unknown in the rule of law in this country. If it was lawful, I would have no reason to alert the nation of the dangers they represent. It is the violations of law that have forced me to bring these matters out in the light of day. The final and fourth reason for this statement is that I have heard on several occasions from loved ones, persons who care, persons who may not know me beyond my public duties, and many who think that since these proceedings seem to be carefully staged to result in my removal as Chief Justice, it would be best if I just retired or resigned rather than subject myself to an ill-motivated process. I have also received threats and veiled threats to the effect that if I fail to resign or retire voluntarily, I will be made to suffer some harm or the other. I've also heard commentaries in the media about how this process was born out of a stated political agenda to remove me and control the judiciary, and that it is a political effort that can only result in an outcome that was decided long before it started. I thank everyone who has engaged in this conversation out of concern for my safety and well-being. Let me assure everybody that I am not seeking to cling to a title or a position. However, as a lawyer of 38 years standing, a judge of 21 years standing, and Chief Justice who has served the rule of law all my working life, in fact since I was 25, it is my onerous duty and obligation to speak up concerning anything that is extremely wrong with the administration of justice in this country. This is what I do every day. The situation I have been confronted with has shown me a model of injustice that I would never have thought possible if I had not been exposed to it. This is why, despite great personal discomfort, I have decided to marshal every effort in law and leadership to answer to this situation. Again,
enti yegu so we de sɛ feed no ateko yɛn sɛ sanka feed na yɛbɛ san ne wakɔ baby a suspended Chief Justice Getrutoku no ɔde ne nsɛm ne tudwa no na yɛsan akɔfa aba.
They failed to defend the claims and resigned or retired while the proceedings were still going on. Therefore, if false claims are made against a judge or commissioner or other public office holder subject to Article 146 proceedings just to achieve a political agenda, the solution cannot be to resign or voluntarily retire out of frustration, pressure, or fear. You would only subject yourself to two cruelties: a judgment based on false claims and loss of everything you have worked for. It may well be that the efforts being made are intended to frustrate me so that I resign, so that the architects of the scheme can go back into the media and say that the wild and unfounded allegations were not defended because they were true, and I had no defense to them. As Chief Justice of the nation, who has been given the privilege and obligation to lead administration of justice, I should not turn tail and run when I know the implications of not defending false and unwarranted charges. If I resign under these circumstances, I will be saying that this flawed, unknown, and opaque process is acceptable. It is not. Finally, let me respectfully say that the current bizarre proceedings I have brought to your attention present a twist to our nation's democratic journey that we all ignore at our own cost. My humble view is that Ghana has come too far in the 33 years of the Fourth Republic not to be concerned about the unconstitutionalities that have been designed not to affect just me personally as Chief Justice, but all judges and public officers subject to removal processes of Article 146, if this one is successfully carried out without being questioned. Behind me is every judge in the country. Behind me is every commissioner or head of an independent constitutional body in the country. If it's successful, it will be tried on anyone. I am not countering these processes for myself, but on account of the leadership burden that I carry. If the nation is willing to accept these developments in its democratic journey, it must be understood that I sounded the warning and the nation took the decision to be passive about it. I cannot share the burden of those involved in designing and implementing this enterprise of pretending to use Article 146 proceedings to remove a Chief Justice through unknown and unlawful means by keeping quiet about the violations of law and due process. Neither can I make anyone's burden lighter by resigning or retiring, instead of proving that not even one of these wild claims in a collection of petitions is even remotely true or meets the standard required for removing a judge. Now, allow me to take you a bit of your time to walk through these petitions. They have been in the public domain for some months now. They are actually available on the internet, so I'm not addressing anything that is not known in the public space. Many negative things have been said about me through public commentary on the petitions, although the petitions were responded to 7 days after I received them. And so anyone who cared to acknowledge my side of the story would have had no need to keep repeating the petitions without discussing them with the answers. And when I provided these answers, I also added with evidence to prove that each allegation was either a lie, a wrong opinion about how work is conducted in the judicial service, a wrong opinion on the work of judges, or a wrong opinion on the duties of a Chief Justice. I'll start with Mr. Daniel Ofori's petition. It is the petition with the most claims. Only 2 out of the several allegations he's making involve him personally as a court user. In one of those allegations, Mr. Daniel Ofori is urging that I should be removed as Chief Justice because I transferred a case in which he's a party from one judge in the High Court to another. That is a crime. What Mr. Ofori did not seem to know, which I stated in my answer to that allegation, is that the judge his case was transferred from had a family crisis and had to leave Ghana suddenly for an extended period. This is the only reason why cases she was handling, including Mr. Ofori's cases, were distributed to other judges to handle. In the second allegation, Mr. Ofori accuses me of transferring a case related to the first one to the new judge who took over his case, after a petition had been sent to me to have the two together. Any lawyer or registrar could have informed him, written into the rules of court, to have cases between the same parties involving the same issue to be heard by one judge, so that we don't have different decisions from two judges on the same matter. So there is no basis or truth to the allegation that I transferred his cases to a new judge because I had an interest in his cases. Indeed, in the year 2020, I wrote a dissenting opinion in one of Mr. Ofori's cases in the Supreme Court. He won that application because my dissenting opinion was a minority opinion of 3 judges. The other 4 judges supported his application. After this, his lawyers applied that I should not sit on his cases again because I had presided over a different case involving him in the High Court when I was in the High Court. In I think 2010, which he had also lost. Since then, I have not sat on any matter involving the gentleman. How can justice? But what is disturbing about the current Article 146 proceedings is the fact that the cases that he's complaining about in the High Court, the ones that were transferred to one judge, started from a judgment in the Supreme Court written by His Lordship Justice Kwaman in favor of Daniel Ofori. How can Justice Kwaman, who gave judgment in favor of Daniel Ofori as part of a panel of Supreme Court and whose opinion I dissented with, which has made me a target of Mr. Ofori's anger, preside over processes to remove me as Chief Justice because of complaints that Mr. Ofori has? I have already protested that there is a conflict of interest for Justice Kwaman to chair the committee trying me or hearing me on Daniel Ofori's petitions. What Mr. Ofori's allegations seem to suggest is that a court user can attack the Chief Justice and ask for the removal of the Chief Justice if the Chief Justice does not agree with his case while sitting as a judge, or if his preferred judge is unable to hear his case. And now the judge who supports his case gets to preside over the removal process. Kwaman, who gave judgment in favor of Daniel Ofori as part of a panel of Supreme Court and whose opinion I dissented with, which has made me a target of Mr. Ofori's anger, preside over processes to remove me as Chief Justice because of complaints that Mr. Ofori has. I have already protested that there is a conflict of interest for Justice Proman to chair the committee trying me or hearing me on Daniel Ofori's petitions. What Mr. Ofori's allegations seem to suggest is that a court user can attack the Chief Justice and ask for the removal of the Chief Justice if the Chief Justice does not agree with his case while sitting as a judge, or if his preferred judge is unable to hear his case. And now the judge who supports his case gets to preside over the removal process. Apart from these 2 allegations, Mr. Ofori has no interest, no personal interest in none of the other allegations he's making. And he should not have been allowed to conduct a litigation against me under the disguise of an Article 146 proceeding. In two allegations, he's complaining that I misappropriated public funds to buy a ticket for my husband and my daughter to travel with me. In answer to this, I handed over my letter of appointment to prove that in my conditions of appointment as Chief Justice, Ghana graciously gave me 2 vacations in a year. In the Judicial Service travel policy, since 2010, the Chief Justice can never travel alone for security reasons. And the Chief Justice is always allowed to travel with a spouse or another person of their choice. So traveling on my officially given vacations with my husband on one occasion and my daughter for the second vacation is part of the official conditions of my appointment as Chief Justice. I was also not responsible for buying the tickets in question, such that I could be said to have misappropriated the value of the tickets. Indeed, if the Judicial Service was not allowed to buy the tickets for my vacation, the remedy was for the Auditor General to surcharge me to refund the money. Anyone can check out the 2023 accounts of Judicial Service and know for themselves that there is no surcharge against me or anyone for the tickets that were purchased for my vacations. Ms. Ofori seems to be alleging that I should have traveled with my police escort alone on vacation and not a family member. And this is why he wants me removed from office. And I'm being tried or held behind the walls of a Lodge. Ladies and gentlemen, the question to be asked is, why would anyone demand that I go on vacation given to me as Chief Justice with my police security, instead of going with my husband or my daughter? And how can this be a reason for subjecting a Chief Justice to a committee of inquiry? In the petition I received, Mr. Ofori also complains that my family members should not have been given per diem when they traveled with me, and I have misappropriated the per diem they were given. But anyone reading the Judicial Service travel policy will find that it provides that when the Chief Justice travels with anyone, whether police escort, another judge, secretary, or a spouse, that person is given per diem. And the rate of per diem is not set or administered by me as Chief Justice. It is regulated and administered by the Finance Directorate and the Judicial Secretary. I've already told you about the retirement of the interest. In an arm of government where there are almost 8,000 staff that I oversee, Mr. Daniel Ofori's petition contains allegation that I transferred one member of staff to work on a different schedule, and that is why I should be removed as Chief Justice. He also alleges that I have refused to reinstate 2 members of staff whose appointments were terminated around 2015, 10 years ago, when I was nowhere near being Chief Justice, and whose issues are still being heard in court. He goes on to allege that I should be removed for terminating the appointment of 2 staff members who went through disciplinary proceedings that were initiated by reports against them before I became Chief Justice. Though it is not clear to me why Mr. Ofori should demand that the Chief Justice should be removed for transferring a member of staff or be the final authority to sign any termination letter, I handed over to His Excellency the President records covering every administrative step on these matters, supported by the due process administered by the right officers. And yet, without issuing a prima facie determination, a warrant of suspension was signed, and now I'm defending myself where there is no petition on the table. Another allegation of Mr. Ofori is that I appointed the former the former judicial secretary as judicial secretary when she was a judge, and so I have made her inefficient. Now, anybody who cares to know the records which I handed over to His Excellency the President was that she became judicial secretary in 2018. She became a judge in 2019. I was nowhere near being Chief Justice. I was appointed in June 2023. Ms. Ofori also alleges that I have appointed judges as registrars, and this has introduced inefficiency into the management of courts. Again, the records will show that the Judicial Council decided in May 2023, before I was appointed Chief Justice, that lower court judges should be appointed as registrars of the Supreme Court. So what I did was just to implement the Judicial Council's decisions. Then, Ms. Ofori alleges that a certain gentleman, not himself, but someone, who had a case in the Supreme Court in January 2024, met a different panel in May 2024, 5 months later, so I should be removed as Chief Justice. He also claims that I refused to fix an application in a case that did not involve him in Accra, which case was pending in Koforidua, so I should be removed as Chief Justice. He complains that I supervise the Judicial Secretary to administer a decision of the General Legal Council, which was taken before I became Chief Justice. So I should be removed as Chief Justice. If you read all my responses, you'll find that I provided all the records behind these decisions. Then he complains that I recommended judges to be appointed to the Supreme Court, so I should be removed as Chief Justice. Now, anyone who knows how appointments are made with recommendations from the Ghana Bar Association, the Attorney General, and the Chief Justice will know that this last complaint only shows ignorance of a very long-standing tradition. It has been the settled practice for decades that in the recommendation of justices for the superior courts, it is the Chief Justice, the Ghana Bar Association, and the Attorney General who have the privilege of making recommendations for those who are to be nominated. The recommendations can be refused or accepted by the President. I encourage anyone to read the judgment of the Supreme Court in the case of Ghana Bar Association and others versus the Attorney General, 2015-2016, to Supreme Court of Ghana Law Reports 872, when this matter was even discussed, and other academic works that discuss this practice that has been around for decades. How has it suddenly become unconstitutional or wrong conduct or incompetence for the Chief Justice to recommend to the President to consider for nomination judges who, in her view, satisfy the constitutional standard of high moral integrity? Yet, despite all the evidence provided, there is a hearing being conducted at Edu Lodge. I have taken this walk through Mr. Ofori's petition to show that the allegations have no bearing whatsoever on any sensitive national issues or public safety or order, or my inability to perform my functions as Chief Justice. They also do not have any basis in law or truth. They are just an attempt to gather a lot of complaints together, regardless of whether they are true or not, whether they are justified or not, just to have an excuse for the conduct of this inquiry that breaks all the rules of fair hearing. I'll be done soon, don't worry. There's also a petition from a gentleman called Mr. Ayamga Akogo. His complaint is that on 14th November 2024, after the Supreme Court had given a ruling which went against him, I, as presiding judge in the Supreme Court, ordered his arrest without any reason. He attached an exhibit to his petition, which was a media report from a group called the Law Platform. This media report says that after the Supreme Court panel had ruled against Mr. Akogo, he started to shout in the courtroom, and that is why he was taken out of the courtroom. Essentially, therefore, his own exhibits contradict his claims. Mr. Akogo goes on to claim that when he applied for a copy of the case proceedings, which were signed by all the judges that presided on his case, he did not see a record that he had been arrested, so I should be removed as Chief Justice. What is significant about this petition is that Justice Foreman sat with me as one of the judges who heard Mr. Akogo's case and was named as a witness that Mr. Akogo will call. But His Excellency the President has appointed him to chair and inquire into this petition, and he has accepted to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, Article 1273 of the Constitution indemnifies any judge against any action or suit for any act or omission by him while exercising judicial power. This provision was just last week cited as a reason for declaring a petition against the Supreme Court nominee frivolous. And yet, I'm supposed to be defending myself on the petition of Mr. Akogo for work done in the Supreme Court with 4 other judges. The last petition is from a group called Shining Stars. Searches have shown that no such group is registered in Ghana. Yet, it has petitioned against me, and they claim that during the hearing of the case of Afenyu-Markin versus Attorney General and the Speaker of Parliament, when I sat as a judge, I failed to hear the side of the Speaker of Parliament before the Supreme Court made an order, so I should be removed as Chief Justice. Again, I can only point to the fact that no judge sits alone in the Supreme Court, and the court's decisions are the decisions of all the judges who sit together. So you will see that every decision I took that is complained about by Mr. Ofori, Mr. Akogo, and the group calling itself Shining Stars was done as a part of a panel of at least 5 judges that made up the Supreme Court. And all judges in the panel are indemnified by Article 1273. How tenable, if I can respectfully ask, can it be that a petition to remove the Chief Justice from office can be entertained on these grounds? Every administrative decision is supported by my constitutional obligations, and I have shown with exhibits, or I showed to His Excellency the President and with exhibits that each decision that was listed was taken after due process, and yet a warrant of suspension was issued against me without giving reasons. Interestingly, there have been some recent suggestions about rules being made to safeguard judges from frivolous attempts to remove them from office. It sounds like an attempt to assure the judiciary that after unconstitutional and illegal means have been used to remove me, conditions will be made safer for those who help with it, or those who may be afraid by the current occurrences. Despite the interesting new discussions of rules for removing judges, I am convinced that it is only a matter of time for the nation's democracy to experience the bitter harvest of what I am reporting. And if this nation descends into the kind of proceedings behind closed doors that break all the rules of adjudication or inquiry as we know them, after all the progress that we have made in the rule of law, that descent will lead us to a place where no judge, commissioner, or head of an independent constitutional body will be safe from compromise created by fear, intimidation, threats, or a desire to please. new standard would have been set where judges comply with what influential persons want or stand the risk of losing everything, including their career, their pensions, and their reputations through the smear campaigns that can accompany the process. Any petition will be enough to invoke the danger of being removed by proceedings that are not supported by law and which can be shrouded behind high security walls. I am confident that in my journey as a lawyer, as a judge, and now as Chief Justice, there is no one person in this country who can look at me in the eye and accuse me of taking a bribe to decide the case. This is the personal treasure of integrity that I live with. So what if these current proceedings are being carefully staged to result in my removal as Chief Justice, even if there's no lawful justification? All I have stated shows that any such action would have been done on the basis of lies and violations of law and due process. As a career judge who has served under 4 presidents, from High Court through Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, I could never have imagined such irregularities possible if I had not personally encountered them. I am also a mother, and I am a grandmother who must hope for better than this for her country, its rule of law and its democracy. On my part, I chose to respect His Excellency the President's warrant of suspension, even though it was clear to me that it was not supported by a prima facie determination that is required by the Constitution and decisions of the Supreme Court. I have chosen to honor the process set in place to hear the petitions, but I do not choose to hide from the nation the perversion of law, rules, and due process, as we all know, and are driving the proceedings, and this renders the proceedings unconstitutional. I choose to trust that such darkness will not totally engulf this nation. May God bless our homeland Ghana and make our nation great and strong. Thank you very much.
Mesamo akwaba biom the TV XYZ so baby awa wo hwe me bia no akwaba na medema obiom ye kwakwohwe the suspended Chief Justice Madam Gertrude Tokunu nansema odutu dwa enu no bi na mepacho bebre ye nyina ye hu mo kan ye no nansema odutu dwa no ye bubu mu a o kire se ya ma no kwan anase ya ma no copies of petition against odomame no asema odutu dwane ibino no also lawyers no so epike petitions no nsema omo no hwa aye omo de saa eno na lawyers no omo pike ya omo de bisa na nsem de kanasem ebiom odutu dwa ese also okasa because violation against ono maame no enye the best enti no suspended Chief Justice ana her ladyship Gertrude Tokunu ono so amode nsem ne bi atudwa ebiom so enye so seek for ebia titles ana power enti na sem ne bi no also solution cannot be resigned or retired. I want to know. I'll say the solution cannot be resigned or retired. Into Odionusu etudra. So I say effort being made are intended to frustrate me. Or just say near more ye non person frustrate you on no mameno. So now to me I resign. I would say yeah mammy some more can I'm so no yeah and I drink so be resigned it and it's na I say no. I'll say there is no basis and not truth. Will transfer some judges on some cases or say to se bi omo de nsem bi gu no so cases bi ba o hye da transfer judges bi ni ade na ade de kura bi ani sa asem no mo we ni nsem a ye maame ka na Ghana for am say nsem e koso bebre na nka se ye nyina no ya ti bi ehu ma ekọ nti ono so na ni di nsem a ode abetu edwa no ye hwe ma ekosu bia yenim se still no mpenifo tinsem no so a oya de a omobobo mu ehwe nti ye hear the verdict ewieye no ne asem no eno na ye behu se ye maami besan beto na dwuma so ana se enya de obeba beto na dwuma so His Excellency John Dramani Mahama also oye law abiding person ono de asem no beto na nim petition send the buy no also me ni ho sem ka me yen fram committee na committee ne ntena so enhwehwem na enhwe se ye maami difo a ya me wakofi ondi fo so a na watwa na adwuma so nti me no ka say de her leadership or suspended chief justice no metene say na sem ne guso a ye hwehwem na sem ne guso a ye bobom na sem ne guso a omude ho nkomo ti penifo tena so me be fim bebe bia no eno na ebe hu so obetwa na adwuma so ana se obekofie nti ensem no ensemi ye bedi nkomo kakra ye de apomde ho nkomo ye de bro ye wi be delve into it the press conference no ensem o kan ye be sono so awewe mu I diagnose ensem no na ye de atodwa na wo so hu mekoye nti stay tuned na enkoma ye de brewi tiebi ye wi a ye betena nsem no so edi ho nkomo pa and the ensem bre ye be call power specialist herbal hospital na ye ni doctor Henba Kokodi nkomo simadu ye ba me ho bia so ye beto also me ka power specialist herbal hospital na me tre omundro omu ye jirikadri for men vitality and mema no me pacho wa ho de na akofo mo nya bi no ma bebo jirikadri no 2 in 1 ye botu ni na bob ye fre ba ko hebaten to bob akuse na bob akuse di ehia ansana ye wo edu aya herbal tonic ono so won ma otu didi obi o so loss of appetite otu didi ehihye wo yi papa ye wo SK so ho ansana ye wo cough care stubborn e wa e woni bi stubborn no e woni bi stubborn papa no me pacho unya cough care ni bia no so ebebo papa ansana malamix malaria no 3D sana kan kasem ye beka no eno so unya bia ebetumi abo me mpesa meje Dr. Hinebe dwuma ye ensem ni na wo Dr. Hineba ho nti be ma Dr. Hineba kwaba na me ho bia so da ma Dr. Hineba kwaba bibia aboko de adanse dia nkofu di fam ho na bradwe na ntiase so me meka say over to you Dr. Hineba.
Yamuakwaba power timbre aso power specialist herbal hospital yarin chefi as Dr. Penya or da hospital and doctor akosia adu aya hodo bibia ojebre na ohwe power time da bia nse ka nyina ne say said enkrofo power ho adanse TV so radio so internet trim ya hodo no won so be ka adanse di for no bi power specialist herbal hospital the Donald Fayen last stop you Kumasi on crying and na yewo takra the Kumasi o fe yase yani just go filling stage ni di enhwene mu wo aputuo ja contrast kwan no so Lake Road ana yewo akra wo kwabenya ACP Council ne block factory no edi enhwene mu na fe takra de yewo Anaje Estate Customs Road yani single washing bay no edi enhwene mu numbers edi adwuma na yemiensa famu bia ofra branch na ebe no near direction ba ho na wabeje wayaresa numbers ni 0555 79 7878 0200 38 3831 and 0244 54 4422 Monday to Saturdays any day adwuma wo ba la wo papa bia wo hia se e ma wo ye no beye ye di information di pedua mu so hia se ma wo yes scan so hia se ma x-ray bibi biara e be koso oni pedua mu no se ye hu de e koso ne ye boa etu ade no ase ye tackle the cause of symptoms no ne etu ade no ase de ma to mfa ya de ne ma ensan fa nko de berada power specialist herbal hospital tine frɛ last up ya de bia emfa ye fichiri obra yemfa adro enka no uyo obi a wa test hepatitis B positive misraw tieniye yade we yade bia meka se wiase nyina se eni adro but da bia meka no mani age se na onyam ka nyankopɔ ni se power specialist herbal hospital ene hospital akopa nyankopɔ adom wama doctor akosua adua ya amanura ye de say ade we etu ase ye manage ye mbrebe no ase nyame ama maame no duru a ye bet say ade no etu ase amna ko negative kra be ko negative amwa no nyina be den e be firi mogya ne mu ya na tenkasa wo mfe ene mfe ya wo chikasa mututu we ade kakra bi na wabre bre bi afiri se heat to nipadua ne mu ya na honam hyehye honam keka wotibititu ho saa na honam nyina atwitwa de dikitu bi na yefunu ahye na ayekutu samram no kasa yefunu ayeden we yefunu ayekese wani aye very yellow yesonya jaundice wakoye scan yeso of fatty liver or liver enlargement or liver cirrhosis to Mirikaso Baba Power Specialist Herbal Hospital. Hepatitis B ne master aye power to Mirikaso Baba bibia koni ekoso ni pedwe no bia ema hepatitis B no enku oba power nyame adom ayaresa ho no mo ede ema odi no aye ulcer ekwam de wa ye problem aduane toy ma ye problem udidi mi ye problem ya na obo afron sentini se ulcer no ekro no so enyanti etima obo afron obi kura timi efe ya na abo no nyina yo ye de kopie wa chutanya heartburns udidi na aduane jejabo indigestion ya na osara nyina titiriti ya na se emframa bi egina wo yam misraw ama wo chika semu ya wo ya wo chibrem no mututu wo yo ho hwenye ya to Mirikaso Baba Power Specialist Hospital enu achiri betimi anya ye dre fa no SK edua ya SK that is stomach care ekro bia wo ye funu mu say ye duodenal ulcer say ye peptic ulcer wunya edua ya SK ni bia ebabo na atuade no ase intentem ade amount wakoye scan wako hospital so kidney stones anase kidney cysts baby esa do ani kire aye Power Specialist Hospital ama lower back usisi achi eya wo ya ehyehyɛ den unase nyina etata umia na atomu a Mr. Tumikabra Power Specialist Herbal Hospital Kumase Encrime anase eye takrade bemba bi a wo hwe power time wo Johnson asha sese eye basabasa wo chimansa na Johnson aba kakra bi na Johnson do kwa kitu bi na aba dempo Johnson na eba no obema no mu ya wo ya obema no mo hyehyew wo Johnson wi aten kasa Johnson bi akam wo Johnson wi ne mogya di akire wo kwa Johnson eba ni nyina ye mogya wa ya sitimiri se tan se Johnson no entumi emma misro entna ho mianfa rubber enkwahye obemam Tumirika Bra Power Specialist Herbal Hospital Kumase Encrime anase eye takrade obawa wabawa ache obawa no yi ahra ne mogya ewmu wo koko wo chest eye wo ya ehyehyw ama onfino mfinyina eye wo ya wakoma timi bo se hwim bibi biara ekoso atechema ewo wo koko ho wo chest ho say your heart say your lungs say your die na ekoso say your infections bi na aba wo koko ho no no Mr. Tumirika Bra Power Specialist Hospital ama wo home a ensiso wo home esro wo hia edua ya cough care herbal mixture ya to this a chest cough bibi biara ekoso ewo wo chest ho say your one na wo bo say your infection bi na aba wo lungs num say wakoma na ayekese say wo koko no wakoma no da bia bo kim bibi piara ewo wo chest ho a etetew ha no unya edua ya eye cough herbal mixture ni bia ebeboa na atuade ni nyina ase efiri ho no mo ade amaw tie ni ye entena ho o tenatan ho ayade bekun bia esesa oba eye Power Specialist Hospital your number senior 0555 7978 0200 3831 and 0244 544422 Monday to Saturdays and the ayejuma what test malaria positive what test positive and 400 plus baby debia wunya edua ya malamis ni bia babo to asen 2-3 days be furu ni padua ni mu ama ho atimi atọ ya na onum yo nwuno waposo nyina yo mre ya na ho ayehye ya na abo afron utumi se da bia wa ye mre e bia na ye malaria Bra Power Specialist Hospital wo ye be ma niam nkoye wo mpamu emfa mawa wo hia jirikajiri herbal mixture we eye me vitality be ma bi wa ye mre wo mpamu no wo hia sa adrowei na afi wonya herbal mixture immune system booster na wonya de bom say dia na tese ba bia wu ade amaw ba bia obia ne de ha obia no bra power specialist herbal hospital umoja so tate kakra bi na moja so ate kakra bi na moja awe aduane de wonma wontene de okokata so a wontumi enna wo so tia na etia ye be ma odua ya herbal tonic wonum nyina aye pure herbal amano son na ya so no subroni sa no ayede eye adwuma yede eboa adehye ama etuomo yade ase na Food and Drugs Authority register gino ni nyina so atum ade amaye yade bia ha obia aware fa mo pa wo a wo ne ma mumienu nyina mamna ne ehwe bia problem no wo ne mo amo mama ni gentimi nwepeye ewo mo so mawade mo to asetwetwon siatica sha se fru srem na so na akokom na so nantu na so nanti na begina wo nanti na no ayesisiri brande enyo massage moja no be dia fru sane ye ama sa titire ni nyina den akọ wonase timi yo se tofo bi wasem tia fam a ase ade etare na ase bone fracture don perimo bupen fabra power specialist herbal hospital component show me no ya gota wo ba ya mfase kan enka ya surgery aw ya hospital ho no be modura e be na ni nyina ama nso so ani atumi age be ma betimi abotai oba nso betimi acha wo amu ama ukoma timi ada ho na bibia ya kama ede ama mesro ya de bia ha obia ukotodwe ho ana ho no yesinsuo ginam na wakotwe na asa ho no oba pa be kyekere ama bibi biara koso ni pedua ni mu a bia yentimi anka ho asam no eno enche se enye ho adwuma fabra power specialist herbal hospital Kumase Enkran anase eyetakrade ona odi ho adansere edoso wona enu ba hye Cote d'Ivoire Togo de Burkina ne de ade chi ade sabia no se wo mu eba kwani wona osmo ma de hye fra mo no US UK ne mia hodo eba gi no de sandi wo mu no mu de dansidie papa ade ba enti ade bia ha bia ukokata so untumi enna utumi de all right and so tia na ete utumi jonso saa no ai ha bre bia be hwe sugar no na kwa na ekosoro mesro tutumika bra power specialist herbal hospital Kumase ofiyase yani Jasper Filling Station di enhwene mu wo aputu oja contrast kwan ne so Lake Road na yewo akra wo kwa benya ACP kwan so ne block factory no edi enhwene mu na fetakrade wo Anage Estate Customs Road yani single washing bay no edi enhwene mu labs numbers edi adwuma na yemi ensamesro famu bia ofra branch na ebel no niama direction abaho na wabejo ayaresa numbers ne 0555 797878 0200 383831 and 0244 544422 Monday to Saturdays and ye adwuma Sunday penny da ye adwuma even holidays ye adwuma or your branches ni nyina mu ti mo wori so do yade ne beba no obeju ayaresa e ma yade enku obra power specialist herbal hospital ye wo ho yade o se bre bia o chebre na o hwe power time nyame ya aduma adasane sabre ya nso yade apomde ho nsam no ebebro
mamenda doctor here ba asibebre so ode apomode ho koma mo de ehwam edifi power specialist herbal hospital ode brand mama papa menu a wo hwe me TVXYZ wo a wo tie me o power 97.9 FM imbredra osa usutu anamon no do anim chirem wo a power specialist herbal hospital no to me bo numbers no de tu dwan so wo fra won sa betumi aka omo no ne omo edi nkomo ma bibia etumi akonkan enti de etene no say ansa na ye hwedwumedi ase yehu suspended chief justice Gertrude tokonu nensamo de tudwa ma yina ya tetebi mrepem ye be delve into it na ye didi eho enkomo asa na yehuma eko na yesi kwan so na yakọ yenimu dia minority caucus in parliament. Almost so I condemn the recent termination of over 100 employees of Bank of Ghana. Make us say siano yes chukubaba into any omo enye adwuma bio. No mo nsam omo kan na say ye restate sa employees ya yi omodi we ensem a minority in parliament so omoka enti me pese be kwa akohwe video no nsem na eri amacho say tinti a sankofo so ye yi omodi.
We are here this afternoon as a caucus to strongly condemn the recent mass termination of over 100 employees of the Bank of Ghana. These workers lawfully carried, recruited and properly vetted were contributing to national development. Yet, without warning, they were dismissed and massacred. Article 24 of the 1992 Constitution guarantees every Ghanaian the right to work under fair and satisfactory conditions. Article 23 further requires public institutions to act lawfully and fairly. The Labour Act 2003, Act 651, particularly Section 64 and 65, lays out clear grounds for termination: misconduct, incapacity, or redundancy, none of which apply here. If redundancy were the reason, the bank was required by law to notify the chief labor officer, consult affected employees, and offer compensation. It did none of these. We have noted that some dismissals were disguised as termination during the probation. Probation is not a license for arbitrary dismissal. It must be based on documented assessments and clear communication. The minority in Parliament stands shoulder to shoulder with these workers, and we will not waver. We demand: 1, immediate reinstatement. The Bank of Ghana must restore every single dismissed worker to their rightful position without any further delay. Governor of the Bank of Ghana must face Parliament and explain this heartless abuse of power. You are not above the law, and you will answer to the people. 3, action from labor authorities. We call on the Chief Labor Officer, the National Labor Commission, and the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, to intervene immediately to protect these workers, uphold their rights, and stop this lawlessness. 5, parliamentary resolve. The minority will push a motion for a full parliamentary inquiry with unrelenting vigor. We will expose this injustice, work tirelessly to reverse these terminations.
Where minority caucus in Parliament, our more culture, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and the Governor of Bank of Ghana, said termination over 100 employees of Bank of Ghana. Yasaku omo reinstate omo. Now, according to the HR, the Bank of Ghana, no, in Shemo Diamaye, and he said this employees, no, Yasaku omo just ended. Probationer, no more employees. We no, no more probation. Probation, so there, so be the probation. My woman say, Muntiani, 6 months. Within that 6 months, and Nejuma so any obet one so. Nejuma so any obet pamono. Enti, Moshe a year or more end of probation now. The output no never form. Enya dia BOG and a Bank of Ghana in this so. Enti almost all qualify or say 24 more. Enunti na masanko fui akofi enti mase what say minority ne kasama mi na no ya kasagaga asem no omadwan so ani omuso form November ni December na yenim sa abanse san bai na ye fa sanko fui uwie na kasa we mu kofi a 6 month probation and there business on tiase aban na ni pedi ni pay omadwan so ani omo ye incompetent enti enya dia Bank of Ghana betumi ene omo aye adwuma na aban no so yakasa ye reset mine no ye aban no ntumi spend anyhow enyo bia nipa no ankasa na adwuma nkuso ani eniama nkwaye enti se ye fa na ye fa ne sen eti wotie nsama minority kan ye moguo ya fa omo probation ye 6 months aso omo ye omo so omo adwuma nso ani ochuku baba omo kofie aban no so ntumi ntwetwe ska basa enti asem no ma ewo hono no we ya asema no so ekọ so a efa no BOG ana what say ya terminating kofu contract wo Bank of Ghana ensem ni bi no na enda so enchema be piem ni say former GR boss make us say ya bonu tuja former GR boss make us say special prosecutor officer arresting Reverend Dr. Amisha Dai Owusu Amoa former Commissioner General Adema GRA, Sasuna Isaac Renzel, also ex-commissioner of Customs, now the general manager Adema SML, and Sana Christian Tete Soti, also a former technical advisor, now the MD CEO Adema SML. SML will be back as you're from Strategic Mobilization Limited. Omo and MPP abaye twem ko wura ken no foriata ene omo sensan krata chest taxes ahuru bi ne ade ayetua de ma GRA no sankofu yi no omo hweso ngege ye be kaka ye ho omo ba be ka kire ye say SML kra ne save Ghana millions of cedis no strong is otuku baba no omo dada ye enti ekuku da miensen a me pacho omo de television so amobobo omo din Reverend Dr. Amisha Dai Owusu Amua, former Commissioner General of GRA, Isaac Renzel, ex Commissioner of Customs, and now the General Manager Dema SML, and Sana Christian Tete Soti, honestly a former technical advisor, now the MD or CEO Edema SML no Sam Penifwe $500 million Muntiani. $500 million bia me pacho bebre yehu bebia sikan akofa it make us say special prosecutor office of the special prosecutor amam penifue make us say omotwa bankukum eniama so afo set omotom de bana yemo omo bill no omo san kantin na Tuesday meti bi ombede ma de achen na bibie tumi akonkan additionally no a list of suspects so anoso or say arrest omo efan SML case hu na bibie to konkan no yewo Evans Edusei ono ye CEO Adema SML then Philip Mensah and son Deputy Commissioner of Legal at the Ghana Revenue Authority, a former Deputy Commissioner of Legal and also says ya no ye be no papa na oye legal consult Edema SML and son Joseph Kuruku and son ye ba Faustina Ajoko and also ombechi omina no omo staff members the ma public procurement authority PPA ye wo rura so e friend Kofinti ono so former commissioner general the ma GRA sam penifo yina no omonsa betumi aka omo miense di aka omo na we mu so suspect ano so ye say yetumi yire omo na yetumi ne omo di wo sansem go omo hu bon wo SML scandal here one of the investigations which a former Minister of Finance Oraken of Foriata ama yetumi declare wanted nti the attendant $500 million ma me papa minya wontie me ufi say yesika ketwa enye sika ketwa nti the attendant no make us OSP ama yati ase se omuguso a omone strategic mobilization Ghana Limited SML edidi nkomo na yetumi ahwehwe efa no petroleum ne mineral revenue bia oversight no so any bo fa so a aye ensemble brenti eguso yenua yensaka yenua Wilson so a ninu bedi nkomo kakra afa sansemi ho yekwa yenim a mudim say afibia ba na afibia no titu ya ye wo coastal areas no minim say Mr. Kobe Mensa betumi akai ade a yetumi ka sa time yemfa be 2 months nsi wo okay mamenko na mene Mr. Wilson mene no enkodi enkomo Mr. Wilson wa ahoma no so so tiemi a ora Wilson memo ahawie e de by inside politics so
Mojo cooking biga aboko there
nyame yes bibia aboko there
biga aboko
wunia me hu me brother na ache
I won't hear power I say we need share one of these days
Mate pa nti Mr. Wilson na yenene din komono oye anti crusader won kuti akasetia corruption ahroa ekoso ne ade hu onkomoni bi na yeneno ebedi no chief crusader against corruption Emmanuel Wilson Jr. Mr. Emmanuel Wilson Jr. we di tew ya fra wa nya bone mechene se abede dwase OSP office no etumi ama ensa aka ekuku dam miensen Reverend Dr. Amisha Dai Owusu Amoa oye former Commissioner General Adema GRA Saasona Isaac Krenzel ex-commissioner of Customs and now the General Manager Adema SML Ansana Christian Tete Soti also a former technical advisor now the MD or CEO Adema SML na me pacho abeto mu ne say wa wonim $500 million bi yes scandal efa SML ho nkofu hu bomu enti ensa etumi aka omo bigidi sa wate sa wonte so na me de bo wa SML nsemi minim sa waka ho nsema dia na woka fa sa nsemi ho
what did I say mate edi chipa na de ebeto ja enwa enza ne ene the issue of Inkofua Wabubo Mudia they are involved in. As suggested clearly an issue of conflict of interest. Neka conflict of interest is one of the major things that are affected on my and in Tunisia was such a COVID than say now common share JRA Ghana Revenue Authority in Omuna no Mudi next time the two guys said they had some interest in SML. It raises so many questions. And that is the reason why I said we get to talking about the corruption matters involved in it. I need to be the JAMA OSC any court because OSC in Shushamuni at the area where you will GBS or the Beko court or the court now what the court will say, they will take it from there. But what bothers me so much is the issue of conflict of interest. So when I are pointing on so protected the interest of Ghana. You your interest in this case JRA. Now later, another two guys said, whilst trying to protect the interest of Ghana, they were also protecting their personal interest. The idea interest. And that's the reason why Mackenzie, after the arrest of the two days, now since you profile only behind it. The challenge and I charge the Ama OS Luciano pay and say uncle beyond just these directors. Now unveiling the actual owner of SML. A very, very important thing. And one of the most important things as it to me unveil a bed and pa amayuhi only pa or share SML. Because for you to be the owner of SML and be able to also influence people like Amisha Da and others are no more GRA to be so much into SML. Not just who you be a Ukra and now overly so much power. And then the investigation, it shouldn't just end on directors. My actually know your directors. We share corporate governance and so on. The fact that the director doesn't actually mean to who your shareholder. The teacher will say, let's find out the true share owner and now owners of SML. It means the owners of SML. And then you clearly with the investigation in the Kwakudu. And only the first thing. Secondly, OSP Nankasa. Mabakofen does not convince us so much. Because over the past years, Nakwapo say, I did be a OSP didn't Biano. He ends up making it a foolish case. Or Rashi and yet proper investigation. At the end of the day, Obenya just weak document, evidence, or Rashi to court and court about Assembly. We are hoping, sir, this particular issue, SML issue, any GRA, me personally, any other institution would have handled it other than the OSC, because I do believe in his competence. But since Onoababu taking over, we lead their all, the hope is that they taking the time, and the proper investigation, thorough investigation. Not next time I bet you saw this answer with Akko Court, but the Akko Court because Okita enough evidence. Edema Court, and Edema Court, Ama Court, are finding out the actual corporate involved. Nothing you see can you retrieve this cana, you retrieve this cana. You retrieve you not only involved to say a trauma, so a trauma. And then there are two things involved. First one, you're finding out the actual owners of SML. It can be one owner or multiple owners. The real owners, may you find one more out. You move beyond this, the directors are actually showing. You'll find out who the owners are and now the owner is. You're supposed to be a special prosecutor and Sana Obi move further to go to court on making sure that thorough investigation has been done. Yes, a man in the same case with the way or say all other cases are assigned in
Isawo, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, ni mujedia Ghana funyaye na momoto abama no odisine ni so so ba obepre na wabon hombo dema na ban so akweti akrata so ne proye it's Ghana fu bebre na say His Excellency John Dramani Mahama say 4 years ikro tumeti sika horo akwahye baby niema Ghana for and say previous government ni bimu ewia ojemaya ebetumi aboa ma yeso Ghana fu yakoma toyem hu ne say yemfa say 6 months na ye pem koi na yesi ne 6 months na ye pem akwa 6 months dia na obeka fa ekwan a all fight against corruption.
Well, I think so far, no, you see, fighting corruption, results, and the at the end of the day, results, and results, and the it is not the media engagement, but you see, perception also accounts so much in the fight against corruption. A final perception at this 6 months, let's make us say, His Excellency John Mahama and we create a good perception. It will need an officer fighting corruption. Through oral, through media engagement, any transparency, any other things, the perception will be no two ways about that, which may create it to a large extent. But you see, in fighting corruption, you must go beyond perception. The beer in temptation you do say, see the kind of right thing. The Ghanaians actually need to say, you don't retrieve your seeker. Look, about the Tuga, if you should not the Tuga say, average. Ghana loses $2 billion, not million, $1 billion to corruption every year. $2 billion is what averagely Ghana loses to corruption every year. And then, the perception of we fighting corruption, maybe 6 months, it was fantastic. We created that perception. But in going forward, Ghanaians don't only need perception. We hear results. $2 billion every year you listen to corruption. The Ghanaian actually need to say, Inca by now, tempo, the 6 months you are dedicated to create a good perception. Between now and end of the year, into the following year, the rest of the years as president, the Ghanaians actually need strongly and they say, you don't retrieve, you don't get results out of it. Now, and for the at the end of this year, the better Ghanaians better say, aside the perception, you will retrieve their 500 million, 10,000 million, whatever million from corruption and corruption-related practices. And many are dear Ghanaians in the budget. And then to me, yes, 6 months there, in terms of perception, he has done very well. But in terms of results, there's still a long way to go.
Where Medina Sekesebemo, Mr. Emmanuel Wilson Jr., Chief Crusader, Crusaders Against Corruption. Yeah, but that was papa. Latest development be aba so a ball punuma him say womanty. Obe GS no near din comment here that say. Ora Enti Mr. Emmanuel Wilson Jr., Chief Crusader, Crusaders Against Corruption. Onona yetene nkano. Yedede din komofano SML dealer make us say $500 million US dollars aira ye hu bebia dwete no kofi lajane ekodi na sika ne bebia ekodi bia no ye behwe age biom ode atudwa se behia se ebehu the owner of SML nti ono so ehia pa the owner of Strategic Mobilization Limited ebehia se ebehu owura ohyechi cause adwene yi sa mpanimfo nyina no se bi omu figiare o masa akwaye mpanimfo ama SML unsa asem no ye pa me pani wa ha ye fi ho no sa adwuma ya ye de contract mom the same people na abro mo GRE no omo na sesia omo san hwe se adwuma no so Ghana funtie ni o conflict of interest no kan bi no adwuma no SML no wo ho mo na mo hwe GRE so sa mpanimfo miensen me pacho omo fi omo office no ma sign akoye mpanimfo ama SML bibi wom we the OSP de bia wo pre na wo pra asem no we mu hwehwe mu ye na yenkom ye na mu dopa ye de ani kirem wo coastal areas ne so a wonim say Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture and Fisheries Commission o ma announce 2025 closed fishing season for marine fishing fleet and also ebekoso na me wo mu ne say propaganda bi koso be pese mutie ne ye be hu say ye hwe eye hiama na say boat ahoro wa konsuo so a ye wo industrial trawlers nti industrial trawlers no omo no every 1st July kosi 31st August 2025 2 month industrial trawlers vessels akese ships akese na omuyi nam no omo no Ghana waters no 2 months yen nam wo muntie ne ye wi aye ba semi industrial inshore vessels and ye friend boat ahoro na nye kanunu ye wo boat and so ship but su bebre omo so omadwuma inde ombeyi nam ne ade no ombeyi sam omo ne tuna mo ne ade no nketwa no so ye dade kese pa and ye semi industrial inshore vessels no omo de ne ye 1 month until ne ye 1st July ko see 31st July 1 month na me pacho omo hwe na Ghana waters no enam no so sa time in enam no ta wo and I didn't say here say you be more kwama aya kese kama na assumption of for a canon fishes you won say nkofu bebre na nkasa keka say sisimbom tabunu bom ye papa mo ye jamo wo use canon tabu die a sisipo ya no omo nka ho ye be hwa aban bi ebetwem ko mbribi na omo de kanunfo ni na ma komde omo ne ade kanunfo ne nka ho nti sa propaganda opposition fo ne mpanifo bi anankofo bi ahya ase ka kanunfo so ka ho no ade a press statement da manimi say wa we kanunfo kanu ye nketwa na ye tisimbom tabumbo omo na munsuo so nam no omo nka ho nti closisi ne kra na modie ayenuanum ye papa mo ne yenuanum a obunyusi kanu de che na modie yesa akonje o monkoso enche monam but industrial trawlers no any semi industrial inshore vessels no mienu industrial trawlers in 2 months. That is 1st July, could see 31st of August, 2025. So as soon as semi-industrial inshore vessels and also, honestly, 1 month. Inti trawlers in 2 months. Now a semi-industrial inshore vessels, and only 1 month from 1st July to 31st August, 31st July, 1st July is 31st July. Inti mwa mu use kanun monka hu, mano mensamo. Elmina edina monka ho yenu anuma mo wini ba mo Cape Coast kosi axima flower kitamo ne adini na monka ho enti de etene no kanunfo nka ho nti kanunfo metumi akọ ekoyi monam ships ana say vessels akese no na sa di edi wo mo nti statement na aba no eno na de on Monday no the statement ba but nipa bi na ma say kanti na misi so biom no a kire yenu anum mo coastal areas o mu yinam metene say nketwa no kanun ne de ye system nkoso nyam adwuma na bibia ntumi nkokai na apostle Suleiman Johnson apostle Suleiman Johnson and me fa Blaster Square hona me hwe nipa no ogu a na seweni ense de catcher nra no mo share 3-day revival oye Ghana Blaster Square no ho na ndra okasem bia enye easy wa boy His Excellency John Dramani Mahama abona baso one omomubu mani friend leadership asebiwa odi amomayam sesi onam baby obi eka say His Excellency John Dramani Mahama the leadership no de bro adwene ntiase so ye ka Apostle Suleiman Johnson a yenim say oyesofo kesepa enti yenye kuku dem bi sa no mo kan kra no tumi ka say His Excellency John Dramani Mahama the leadership out the among my Ghana or reset my Ghana and my mind koso inti all African leaders and no musia and feed you made you did war my Ghana nature say bibia koso bibia no edam edia mribi no man e kwa stray but say si anyame adom ye be the right part and kakra wonsom anyin pa bibia wedu no mene wo so ye boa ye betumi a reset man ye momenti Apostle Suleiman Johnson no so den some of the two dwa one rap or Blaster Square.
Thank the Lord for what He's doing in the nation of Ghana. It is awesome what God is doing through your president. Amen. By the grace of God, we were with him yesterday and we told him we don't know how he did what he did, but whatever he did, was not expertise, it was the grace of God. And African leaders need to learn from John Mahama. It's a model. I'm telling you the truth. Of course, I will not talk like this. I will not talk like I'm shocked. I'm overwhelmed. The way the man brought down, crashed down the thing, stabilized, and he said quite a number of things. The man loves Ghana. He loves his people. I could see that while he was talking, it was all about the people. He said he wants to leave he said to me he wants to leave a legacy that when anybody comes, nobody can bring it down. That you steal money, you go to prison. You take money, go to prison. You take your salary, go home, but you still go to prison. I say president saying this one, that's strange. That's strange. And Father, we thank you for Ghana. Thank you. Thank you for President John Mahama. Thank you for his team. Thank you for his cabinet. Give them sound health and keep them to take this nation to greater heights. In Jesus' name. You know, let me tell you something. When there's a transformation, what happens is, first of all, the financial level begins to balance. Then it slides into other parts of the economy, feeding, housing. It starts reflecting. And I thank God for you. And I believe God that very soon those that ran to America, to London, will start running back.
Enti Apostle Suleiman Johnson and Johnson Suleiman on Free Nigeria. Onona yete in car wa boy His Excellency John Dramani Mahama abaso church and leadership ne de say ni kwan wa mo my Ghana and kakra ye reset in a brad enti asie so enti African leaders ni bebre nsia emfi ne ho make out say enche so yenya feed na be call Jubilee House na ma ekoso ho bia so ye di abro enti yenya feed na yenya ntie say Jubilee House be responded to the suspended Chief Justice get you to Konun some of the two ga enche enti say yenya feed na ye be call na ye di ono abro ora ko bi mensa bibia bako de
mina don bibia
bako ma nte bibia de din
Ghana fuina so John Dramani Mahama ne Julius Dabra ene onabo atofosen ene yenu kuma Samje Mfi ene misansu echia governor Bank of Ghana Siama Dr. Siama said ma pa omo bono nko so mboda na ye tamochi ene mu na mu nyinara na nyame insure mo
okay
mina bema
okay baby Adri anti amenya ne say say Jubilee House I crowd anti yenko break and brown okay yebeko break aba yebeko Jubilee House.
Ghana-China Business Summit 2025. The Big Push. Labadi Beach Hotel. Monday, 23rd to Friday, 27th June 2025. Time 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. Get ready for the most transformational business summit of the year. Organized by Sino Africa Group, Perfect World Company Limited, in collaboration with the Office of the President through the Chief of Staff. Theme: Synergizing Opportunities, Strengthening the Ghana-China Business Relations, and fostering a 24-hour economy. Why you can't miss this. Over 70 top Chinese investors and government officials in attendance. Government to business and business to business matchmaking sessions. Unparalleled investment and trade opportunities across key sectors. Keynote speakers include special guest of honor, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana. Other keynote speakers include Her Excellency Professor Jane Nana Opoku Ajiman, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. Honorable Julius Deborah, Chairman for the Summit, Chief of Staff, Office of the President. His Excellency Tong Defa, Chinese Ambassador to Ghana. Honorable Dr. KCL Atu Forsen, Minister for Finance. Honorable Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare, Minister for Trade. Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Minister for Education. Honorable John Jinapo, Minister for Energy. Honorable Eric Opoku, Minister for Agriculture Agriculture, Honorable Emmanuel Ejekum. Minister for Special Initiatives, Dr. Tony Aubin, CEO, Petroleum Hub. Honorable Sylvester Mensah, CEO, Ghana Exim Bank. Mr. Farihan Al-Hassan, MD, GCB Bank. Professor Michael Besser White, CEO, SIGA. Mr. Chen Xiaowei, Chairman, Sino Africa Group. Mr. Dennis Anderson, CEO, Perfect World Limited. To register now, call 0303-960-584, 0599-774-044, or 0205-600-310. For more inquiries, email GhanaChinaBusinessSummit@gmail.com or visit www.GhanaChinaBusinessSummit.com. Limited space is available. This summit is proudly supported by Office of the President, Chinese Embassy in Ghana, Ghana Embassy in Beijing. Media partners: Ghana China Business Summit 2025, The Big Push.
Mido, Ghana Biana. I'm going to do a baby soon. Every time I can say, baby, shit. Mangashi.
Junior!
I'm saying so enough for me, dear. No.
Sister Cospa, it's a winning gas.
I'm using the why.
Why?
Down Yankanawa.
Sister Cos. Use gas. Gas ye fast, ye easy, ye convenient.
Let me see your hand.
Hi. Now let me tell you about Safari Valley Eco Resort, the first of its kind in West Africa. Upon your arrival, you are introduced to your butler, who plans your itinerary.
We were surrounded by wildlife from the moment we entered the eco park.
So many activities, all in the same premises. Visit the gym or the stables, they have it all. At my break, I'm able to practice my putting.
We also went fishing on a man-made canal. Our tour guides taught us so much about the wildlife and how to interact with them.
They used only electric vehicles here. This creates a serene environment. I'm told it's over 1,000 acres. My cabin here sits on 2 acres with a large terrace space overlooking my private swimming pool. Now this is royalty. They have their own farms, thousands of fruit trees. I can also have my lunch here at the waterfall. Quite a beautiful place you have here.
Visit Safari Valley Eco Resort in Ghana, bringing you closer to nature.
I hereby declare 1st of July of every year as Ghana's official National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving.
Where are you going with all this?
The president just made 1st July a National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving, and I'm preparing in advance.
I mean, we're all going as a family, but you seem overly excited.
Yes, I am, because this is the day to pray for Ghana's peace, wisdom for our leaders, strength for our youth, and prosperity for every Ghanaian.
So, what if you are not a Christian or a Muslim?
Then you pray to the God you believe in.
The theme is Reflect, Reset and Renew for National Prosperity. Venue for Christian service is the forecourt of the State House at 8 a.m, followed by the Muslim service at the National Mosque Kanda at 12:30 p.m. These services will also be held simultaneously in all regions across the country.
Hajia, have you heard the news?
1st July, National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving. We are represented.
Missy Minanum, a group bassa, I've been pragro, Tibedu,
As for me, I take very good care of my grandkids. Ye dear grow, na yes, a do maybe crana, me bano timide, or maybe gumi so weekend.
Hey, mumle,
remember, I don't think I'm a catcher, say, Yano, Medi, garlic capsules. Posun, a busy so come. As I stand here, my doctor said my whole system has improved very well. Medi garlic capsules. Yes, Medi garlic capsules.
Medimosis garlic capsules. Boa mamoja di nipadua mu efurusani yi na esiesie oba ne barima ma hon awodin. Ubenya edoi bi ato omanyi mu pharmacy store frey wo 050-349-4885. Edoi enye mamofra enye ndi fie dumienu. Apemfo ene emma emanofo. Medimosis. Unni how FDA ajije di nkra tuwi atum.
The serene environment fits into the goal of the school, which is simply to provide excellent educational foundation for your ward's development before they commence primary education. At first glance, clearly you will see why the school is called Hebron Hills International School, as the building stands tall overlooking town. With a Montessori style, we have experienced and dedicated staff and trained teachers. Our small sizes classrooms are meant to enhance teacher-focused approach where children get one-on-one attention from the teacher. Hello there. We are open at 7:30 a.m. and school closes at 2:30 p.m. After school care is from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. while early drop-off can be arranged at 6 a.m. Hebron Hills International School is located at Midyear off the Nsawam Road. Locate us with GP postcode GW0688 GA West and GPS code 06884870. You can contact the school and make further inquiries on 050-876-2375 or call the office directly on 0302-918768. Email us at hebronhills.school@gmail.com. Hebron Hills International School. Excel and shine.
Yekoya ya sanya Bahaya TVXYZ Power 97.9 FM. Ye crossover called Jubilee House. Na yakofa responder chief suspended chief justice.
If the matters were left to the content of the petition and the processes being undertaken by the committee, we will not have cause to comment because those are matters beyond the purview of the president or the government. But a number of things were said at the media engagements that, if left uncorrected, could create an erroneous impression and project government in a very unfair, unjust, unwarranted light. To begin with, we respect the right of Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, to express any view that she holds about the matter in question, to the extent that it is consistent with the rules, because the Constitution makes it clear what the processes are in determining a matter of the sort that we are engaged with. The Constitution requires confidentiality on the part of all parties. It is a reason why the presidency, on behalf of His Excellency the President, has refrained from commentary on the matter beyond stating what the President has done in compliance with the Constitution. So it would have been desirable that that constitutional provision was respected by Her Ladyship the Chief Justice, so that we do not have to engage in public commentary up until the time that the committee looking into the matter makes their determination. We are compelled, however, to correct certain misimpressions that were created at the briefing. To begin with, let me point out that as yet, nobody has been able to ascribe any known verifiable constitutional breach to the president in the way that he has handled this particular matter. From the very first steps in this matter, the president has kept fidelity to the Constitution and has respected the spirit and letter of the Constitution Everything he has done has been by the book. That is why all those who have commented on the matter, including Her Ladyship the Chief Justice, have been unable to point to any specific provision under Article 146 that the President has been in breach of. Second, in terms of confidentiality, the President has acted strictly in accordance with the Constitution. At no point in time has the Presidency put out anything in any way, shape, or form that remotely resembles any of the contents of the petition. And the only communication that has gone out on this matter have been about the steps that the President has taken in accordance with the 1992 Constitution, Article 146 to be precise. 3, Her Ladyship the Chief Justice all but insinuated that there was some political agenda at play to oust her, and that this whole process is the result of sin. Let me place on record, without fear of contradiction, and let me be clear that no such political agenda exists. His Excellency the President took an oath to which he was incidentally sworn by Her Ladyship the Chief Justice herself. And in that oath, he swore to abide by the 1992 Constitution. He is enjoined to act a particular way when he receives petitions of the sort that he has received. And that is all that His Excellency has done. He has had no choice in the matter. The President cannot say that he has a view about how things should be done, and therefore, if petitions have come, he will fail to act. If he did that, he himself would be in breach of the Constitution, and therefore, he has been enjoined to act as any responsible leader or President of the Republic of Ghana would be required to do, as stipulated by the 1992 Constitution. The fourth point is also that we cannot have a sacred cow mentality in the way that we handle state affairs. Every single public official, from the President to the Speaker to the Chief Justice to Supreme Court judges to ministers to all public office holders, are bound by the provisions of Ghanaian law. Indeed, it was the former Australian Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd, who once said that when you join the game, you play by the rules. So no public official is allowed to raise him or herself above the laws of Ghana. It does not matter how sensitive your position is. Once Ghanaian law dictates that certain processes be undertaken in respect of some alleged misconduct, the rules must come to play. And that is the only guiding principle that President Mahama has operated by in all of this. So any claim, any inference, any innuendo, any imputation of a political motive to the President in respect of these processes are unfounded, they are false, and cannot be allowed to stand. And I wish to place that on record. As yet, absolutely no evidence of same has been furnished in any way, shape, or form. And therefore, I am minded to strongly reject that effort. Unfortunately, Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice herself, has added to this commentary, which initially was the tone of elements of the opposition. And it is deeply regrettable that this should happen when the President has been above board and conducted himself in strict compliance with the Constitution of Ghana. The other point that I wish to also place on record is that the attempts to link the dastardly killings of some Supreme Court judges and a military officer to this case are most disingenuous. To begin with, this government and President Mahama have nothing to do with the killing of any judge. Second, there's absolutely no nexus between the petitions that have been brought and that unfortunate incident in our past. So any effort to link the two is regrettable and should not find space in this sort of discourse. It is most undesirable, it is most unacceptable. Now, the venue in question is the Edu Lodge. Yes, it is close to the Osu Castle, which used to be the former seat of government. As I speak, there are government agencies that operate there. So it is a public place. The Osu Castle is a public place. You can go there to conduct official government business. Beside it are private residences owned by Ghanaians who move freely in and out of their residence, even though they are situated very close to the Osu Castle. So the impression that a facility in the vicinity of the Osu Castle necessarily makes it intimidating or foreboding is completely misplaced. It is unfair. It is not justifiable. Now, Edu Lodge is a state facility which is often used to house high-ranking officials who visit the Republic of Ghana. It belongs to the state. The decision to use that place was not that of government or President Mahama. The committee requested that they needed facilities of a certain status that could house their activities and that could facilitate a smooth running of the proceedings. And that facility was available. It is equipped with modern amenities that will facilitate the work of the committee. And the state only offered it upon the request of the committee. Let me also state that that facility is not intimidating. It is like any regular state facility where business can be conducted to the extent that it is put in the right shape. Wherever these proceedings were held, it will still be in camera, as clearly stipulated in Article 1468 of the 1992 Constitution. So that the proceedings are being held in camera is only in compliance with the Constitution. So it doesn't matter where it is held. And any security measure put in place is only intended to secure the place so that persons who are not authorized to be part of the proceedings do not come there and create any inconvenience. I believe that even if the hearings were held at the court premises, it will still be under significant security controls to ensure that only authorized persons have access to the place. So to describe Edu Lodge in the terms that Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, did was most unfair and unjustifiable. It seeks to obscure the process and bring in unrelated matters that seek to cast some aspersion or ill motives on government for affording the committee a place to do its work. As I indicated, we have no interest in violating the Constitution by going into the merits of the case. And that is why government has refrained. Let me put it on record that government itself has had cause, indeed the president himself had cause, to lament the way in which some correspondence around this matter got into the media. You will recall that the very first sign of any leakage was the letter that the Chief Justice wrote requesting for copies of the petition. Before the letter got to the presidency, it was in the media. And you recall that in the president's response, in which he also took the opportunity to forward the petition to her, we raised that issue, that it was not acceptable. Indeed, we had cause, the president had cause then to ask his executive secretary to mark the documents that were being sent to the Chief Justice in order to guard against any leakage. So at no point has anybody leaked anything. Also, it must be noted that even the media houses that first broadcast the content of these petitions were media houses that you can say are aligned to the opposition. And they are the ones who have gone to town with this sort of thing. So to attempt to cast aspersions on the presidency is most unfortunate, and it causes what should be a smooth process leading to the determination of the merit or otherwise of the petitions that have been brought. So in summary, I would say that what has happened today is most regrettable. And as government or as the President Mahama is committed to upholding the rule of law. We cannot have a situation where, depending on who is involved, the constitution is set aside. All Ghanaians are equal before the law. In the same way that our courts have dealt with individuals in accordance to law, if members of the judiciary themselves are alleged to be engaged in some wrongdoing, the processes laid down and spelled out by the Constitution ought to be respected. And that is exactly what has happened. I thank you very much. If there are any questions that you have, you may ask them.
So,
yes.
The embattled Chief Justice made reference to veiled threats on her life, and much as you're concerned about sticking to the sanctity of the constitutional procedure she needs to go through, you should equally be worried about this threat on her life. What's government's response to the specific issue about threats on her life?
The Chief Justice, more than anybody else, perhaps in this country, should be aware of the platform that is available to address such threats. If today somebody sends you a threat, you know exactly where to go to seek redress in the matter. And that is what I would say about it. Yes, Akusia.
One of the groups that petitioned, the Shining Stars group, the Chief Justice in her press conference indicated that her research done by her team show no traces of authenticity when it comes to that particular group, that the group has not been registered. Can you authenticate that group if we know anything about the Shining Stars?
First of all, I'm not sure whether there are provisions covering this, whether there's a requirement for authenticity, as it were. There were also individuals. How do you authenticate the individuals? What matters is that they have raised issues, and the Chief Justice was given opportunity by the President and the Council of State to provide initial responses, which then form the basis of the determination of a prima facie. The President, in consultation with the Council of State, came to the conclusion that there was a basis to proceed further. The President then, in accordance with Article 1466, I believe, set up the committee as spelled out by the Constitution and gave them the petitions to look into. The processes have been ongoing for quite some time now. So as far as the President is concerned, every law, rule, or regulation or process that has to be adhered to has been respected. So I do not know how this particular matter in any way impinges on the integrity of the process that has gone on so far. But then again, the Chief Justice has had cause, at least on 5 occasions. The Chief Justice and others, I must indicate, have had cause at least on 5 occasions to go to the Supreme Court to seek redress in the matter. And on all occasions, the Supreme Court has upheld the process as is currently underway. And so that, for me, should resolve the issue beyond any reasonable doubt. Yes, Max.
Yeah. Okay, so my question is there any timeline that we're looking at for the committee to finish the work? Because in her speech, she made accusations that there's an attempt to frustrate her. There's also an attempt to intimidate her to get her to resign. And she made that point clearly and forcefully that she's not going to resign. I'm curious to know whether there's a specific timeline by which this hearing, should be done.
As I've been at pains to explain all evening, the President can only proceed on the basis of law. The law spells out what can and cannot be done. The Constitution does not set a timeline, and therefore the President cannot impose a timeline. Indeed, at this moment, the matter is entirely out of the hands of the President, insofar as it is seized with the committee. The President cannot direct the committee on anything that they should or should not do. So it is only they who can determine the processes that are laid down to undertake this particular activity. And as and when they finish and make recommendations as stipulated by the 1992 Constitution, the President is bound to act in the manner that they recommend. So I am not in a position to speak to any timeline. Neither is the President. It is only the committee that can determine when sufficient time has been had to look into the matter. Yes. Is there any? Yes.
Are there any specific reasons why the hearing has not been done in camera? Because we know the Constitution says it clearly in 146.
Well, you have your question is self-explanatory. You've answered it. The Constitution says it should be done in camera, which means it should be done in secret.
Yeah.
Yes, so it has been done in secret, no so?
Yeah.
So why can there be a complaint about what the Constitution... First of all, there are two things that we must distinguish from each other. You can disagree with the constitutional provision. There are many in this our country who have criticized the use of contempt by courts to punish people who they perceive run extrajudicial commentary on cases that are pending. There are many people who have disagreed with it. Indeed, I have on occasion expressed my disagreement. But that is the law. Until the law is changed, you cannot say that you disagree and so it should not be applied. Same applies to this particular process. So whatever view you may have of it cannot stop the law from working. And that must be clearly understood. So we must separate criticism or misgivings about the law as it stands from adhering to the law. And as yet, nobody has been able to say that this particular law under Article 146 has been violated by the President. And that is a point that must be stressed to the hearing of all. So, if the law says that this process must be held in camera, the President has no choice than to act in ways that respect this. And I believe the committee is also respecting it at this. Indeed, the Constitution does not allow for commentary on the substance of the allegations. And there are those who may criticize the Chief Justice for violating same. We have not done that. And as I have indicated, I am not prepared to speak to the content of the petitions because we are not allowed to do so. And the President has acted in ways that the Constitution stipulates. So there cannot be a problem with this. That is why all those who have spoken have not been able to point to one evidence of infraction by the President in all of the things that have happened thus far.
Finally, we are getting this news that the Chief Justice and the legal team has filed a judicial review at the High Court.
She is entitled to do so, and we encourage her to avail herself of any opportunity there is to vindicate her rights. Yes.
Honorable, the suspended Chief Justice in her press briefing mentioned that she has received some call from individuals asking her to resign willingly or voluntarily to save her image. Has any government official or you yourself in any way called her to resign willingly to save her image?
Why would I do so? That will be the basis for me to play such a call. I have not. I have never spoken to the Chief Justice in my life. Second, no government official has placed such a call. If individuals in their private capacities, in their private lives, believe that they have a relationship with her and want to call on her to act one or the other, it is a personal decision that she would have to take. But government or the President cannot force her or even suggest remotely that she should resign. So that must be placed on record. To be fair to her, I don't think that she said that any government official has asked her to do so. So we must also correct the records as they stand. Yes. Yes.
The first time, the Chief Justice leaked her own response before getting to the President. The second time, she chose to hold a presser and level serious allegations against the government. Do you suspect that the Chief Justice has an ulterior motive to paint this government black?
Well, I cannot ascribe any motive to the Chief Justice except to express regret over an act that may appear to violate the Constitution. But I don't think it would be fair to ascribe any motive. As I said, she has every right to adopt any measure she believes will aid her make her case, except that we all know that it is better to do so using lay down processes. Beyond that, I don't think that anybody can ascribe any ill motives to her. We have a responsibility to correct any misimpression created about how the President has acted. That is the responsibility that I'm discharging today. That is all that there is today. Indeed, if there had been no references to murdered judges and the venue, which is a state facility, or some political vendetta or agenda, I will not be addressing you. If it had been purely based on sentiments about the outcome of some court cases, or even the process that the committee is using, we would have no locus to wade into the matter. If the committee is minded and they have a way to engage the public, so be it. But I have only addressed you for the sole purpose of correcting what is a false impression that there's some political agenda at play, or that the venue has been chosen for purposes of intimidation and as a way of using some dastardly occurrence in the past as a psychological tool to wear anybody down. That is what we decry. We don't think that it has any place in this discourse. It is most unfair, most unjustified, most unwarranted. And that is the reason why I have been compelled to speak to you to clarify that matter. Thank you all for coming.
Okay, ya koya ya sign aba ye the Chimo Jubilee House. Minister in charge of government communication, Honorable Felix Kwachu Fusu na yete enenkano. My member studios here wo Mr. Kobe Mensa wa ha. Mr. Kobe Mensa so anti-crusader edema corruption or kasapafa corruption ho. Mr. Kobe Mensa me no wo studio ha na ma ebeti ye real studio ante ne hu say suspended Chief Justice get through tokunu or the Nsembia to Druga who respond na minister in charge of government communication Felix Ofosu Kwate so or the atudre yente wo so opinion and I will take all sasemi ho.
Nicholas we me ho adwiri me pa because na me dia me certificate ma me nche na enye me ba me am krom me na efie for na gomwa and mamin Chief Justice na and o futufo o benyina o da na chief o benyina onye ne fadwen and what's benyin besen benyin bia wan mutu na zo bekoda na fi benyin papa ne besa papa adwon a wadwon mu do senke me na busenya nke maka chende calling on resign sande mamin wezi nyama bi wa ye bon bi a onfata do ye na wode petition akoma ye mampanyin badwen badjon dramani mahama ohwe mes mazin osi konazin no so dem no tsa was all zama nimpanyin funa wobobo ho no ohwe bi de obenden mamin okase mu na mitin oka bibi de nkrofo threaten na opinyi toto tidawo itu ka do bi threato na nyi police station kon e judge e Chief Justice no be threato they have many ways to kill the cat. But the police phone the police for either why should mu achinko for what threat one. And the mocking na bibia ni kisim team. I dream papa bia ni ma minitim. Senka mabusan na kemetum for the auntie ezika kroye. E ba support na ma mi no hwehwe. Ona nkote hwe ego na otedan obi atan do atwum na edu no do. So wadwuma ya any Supreme Court judges and some of the judges and or your kutupa na enisi what's a cochon kakra. What man so you do you mamma nankasa and you mo nyama mama my speech be all your nanny there say because cocoa sabazi or she mama no o meaning to mama nene dem you pay opera ya ba ben yani yedme if you tell ho na wo wa na wa kotun baby na dworo ho atwa me kana sa Nicholas yehwe mami na dwuma obeye ya case some mami to case bia be kokotu ya be lusu because wa MPP for now wa she won krofun kutupa ema court ho ema yanhwe nie na yanye wisafo wo court ho I can tell you that any to win case biara ebina friend then ebina papa so yi ebra na MPP tam what can there what the penny be aliba or friend then former Chief Justice edeba now aba be penina odi eye offended eyinazi na yinde eduma pepe bi matamedu yinde eduma pepe bi no ba be ho na the same institution bi sound eye penina odan asa today Nicholas bisade case ben oda kokota we nkunuda after matamedu ko ya wo prepare MPP ni a obi a wo prepare na de onkoko de anyimi niko bisade e ba zipotin case ben oda kokota we winda e ma ze ko ya me ya ne de maka de yema mpin John Dramani mama them institution ongun special prosecutor office in ongun yema zam so nguna some people feel we sika na what dem chi akotal ne ho na dem pape oya azibia no bagu oyebia no bagu minka no kwancho ne se eye yoko wanye dokatare fi eye pape nsema ehun OSP nsema wanye this guy from next go na asem say dem nkrofo we sika eye SML fu ya we dem sika yes we dem sika chuchu $500 million. So when you them dokati ahun papa oba massage asem na abuagu no do cause the man on
to chief crusader no say eye onya abotre hwehwe nsem no I say no ho pre no ya na
when me research kakao kwaya research there ono
jafi
I bisande we win the case ahin court ba oye lawyer no bisande the case ahin no olusie case ahin no win court was the manana kufado onye lawyer nti only any set about lawyer nti up my appointment and useless appointment continue as my Ghana for as I am continue as Ghana for share like former attorney general former attorney general offend po boni man akoya nunu na so suru a okwoporting kofu da onko di adansi hu fanfa to force hu
ono ano e ma men lawyer
no be abon na message kofu da na message on sem fatampo de o ya attorney general po enu the man small boy. This guy, we know him. Carry people back from the Bank of Ghana to Kufuor office at Osu. We don't know this small boy. You see, this guy only same bill or the call the attorney general. I don't know what is wrong with Ghanaians. Nana Kufuor appointing the check. Kufuor appointing so for the 8 years 1 or 2 to 9. People billing. Yes, where is them? Where they are? Tell me one person all papa or MPP abem. O the fact nana minister appointing here and the judge for appointing ID nala when nala massage case. It's him. Me make a day. You man pay John Dramani mama. Judge for 7 now I saw him. So parliament pass and there you buy 24-hour economy in the court. So that our people there, if we have any case, we'll part the case in the night that our people will give the judgment.
Okay.
Because these guys there, they are not ready to leave the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And we are ready to face them.
Mr. Commissioner, say won common nanche ye debesi na ya toa nkomo no so. Rescue Ghana was empty 1 minute. Ke bibi chetie for na omo for dwumedi esi Rescue Ghana edi. Na yen so na
minia
executive director.
The my no me bufu pa so be say for mfa nchem akoma ko so. Ya befi. What can then Rescue Ghana now for GM 2024 is still working. Yeah, adwuma wie sesa adwuma ye yeah, across the nation for now. Since I get informations from people are be adwuma. In that say other regions na say bia region obetu afan 0208111381. So na ye joadwe nche pede bia ye de wo ye mpanyi kro eda ho ye hia da government properties na akromfo na wiawia. In be bi wo a in be bia last year obi chen bi wo Kumasi some great filling station be is under forest commission property. My boy woman, what I go filling station, we went there and pick the property. You qualify to pick it. I pick a search. Now I can tell you that property belongs to the government. And says I want our information. But when you move from more, and as a nippon or your government appointed today, na wo de attack ne na attack ne ye jiga na si ho ye de ye nkotinti nti na ye kase ni kwa na secretary to the group, and I can tell you the message on mesikon ye fa want to ye ntumi enyiga na fa ko hwim ehihim na info so na wa wo pede e be enyi adwuma nso ibetima send high na yetuma den ya add to the group na yetuma ye adwuma na bom madam na ase the Resignation is still there. Your number is 020 811 1381. And she said, you can drop your message at the office phone faces are for how your agreement will be to now your book appointment with 020 811 381. If I answer the count, okay, yeah, new akasa.
Yeah, better, Mr. Kobe Mensa say, rescue Ghana now, or no, they are too Ghana, until fra, baby, I will be a winning, former appointees. A government appointees be Japadibisha baby, and near maybe Kosu baby, one formation be Kabi, as I see be much afani idea. Me patrol friend, Jumedia rescue Ghana, the whole Ghana, baby, will be a number of the two, then for information, friend of Famano. Now, says ya Jumedia or Mudin and Unti, Mr. Kobe Mensa, the 10 in Kano. Me patrol be brave, my men far more boy, may did Jumedi bro, on the robot, you really are pet. Na executive director, acting executive director the ma complementary education agency and can no a non-formal penny waha honorable ma Daniel Kwesi Ashama better nka so aso na ehwe nim kwan say deputy Eastern Regional Secretary edman this so all around. And also your better income. Medimosis semen cancer so the Medimosis garlic capsules are bedraman so into when you be no my boy improve air blood circulation will be on insane night treaty. We are ronya ronya be no my boy ye papa. Medimosis say and yana war a Ghana be a 20 rupia. A bio Medimosis say and san cancer say so ya reso war ya friend a prostate disorder, sexual weakness, male and female infertility, bear money or bar YM problem, Sarsona hypertension, diabetes, sciatica, typhoid fever, how malaria, stroke, and STIs, Ninano, what they call Medimosis Clinica, me patrobe brombe to me, aboye papa, omo dental clinic ho, omo dentist or bon home bodinti, me patro, FN with no mujume de biaso, ukwa Medimosis for boye. Adenta opposite the police station, AESL building inside Ghana Highways Authority Yard, Accra Ministry, Somo, Ajay Kojo, a school for the deaf, opposite to Ansana Kumase, Ahama Kokobing Santaso or Boaso Quine so 0244 068447. Na Bibia into me and Konkai. Safari Valley Eco Resource Bre, na me patroni we busuan wadofu bimbra. Na mumbe shek safari kakra na weni beji yepa omo dewu okre district we Eastern Region Mountains here udru ha weni beji obenya edan mu ada kama pa world class accommodation so private swimming pools ahro me pacho sa so na mo ahro bibre obehu ho wo pe continental na say local dishes bi ho niema bibre na ekoso enti for reservation for 0596 9143 94 no Safari Valley Eco Resort for Indian Common. Leaf Kid air capsules na me come for the amount a blood digestion papa enhance air metabolism so na niema bi ambo ni pedua be ni na afi uni pedua ni mu kama the amount supporti liver function bebre na nka say bon ho ban we liver no ho ban maybe be to we konkan Leaf Kid air capsules enya na wo Ghana for na nyina frɛ 024406 8447 no nimpen fooding komo ex natural me no water onye bi no me ape bi no me na muda hokorje yo 350 ml yo 500 ml na yo 750 ml enya na Ghana for na no komo so betumi akabi oba Power FM and XYZ broadcasting ya himfia wo so abebrese street oba do bi open wo so betumi akabi wo ha betumi afre factory na car no so di bia bro 0596 273546 0596 273547 na woni omadi nkomo Adom survey and general construction Adom survey and general construction almost say yen control so betumi aboa ama wo dream building no etumi abemamo enti omo land surveying so na engineering surveying architectural designs and sana general construction ni na no Adom survey ni and general construction betumi ayamo kama bibie etumi akonkan omo dodoa odumase behind Christian High School International no and sana dental Accra ha payment plan between the atom months as no or 12 month ono ma assassin boy 60,000 into 12 month no assassin boy 60,000 no upright no between to 50,000 no to an kind and kakra na say deposit payment in 30,000 Ghana cedis. That is 50% of assassin boy normal more 12 month installment no with no 2,500 in kakra. Your payment plan for 6 months cost 55,000. Outright payment in 50,000. Deposit payment here 30,000. 6 month installment 4,584. Nano so with you and kakra 055 4397 and 020-378-884. Now we need impeding for ndin komo na bibia entumi enko enkansa Victory Garlic Mission and medru so obi ho anakoma bon prepare eto se bia na wonsa tititi woni so ayekusukusu me kanfo Victory Garlic Mission mo wo yaro wonya binu ebebo ye papa Ghana enya na obibia to endrobia wo de wani trima wo kanshi Kings Walk Herbal dudu bi open wonsa betumi akabi 020-129-3280 no nimpeni for ndin komo na bibia entumi nkonkan my member studios na Bene Honorable Daniel Kwesi Ashama, the acting executive director at the Complementary Education Agency. Yani Honorable Ndi Nkomo. Honorable Akwaba.
Yeah, Jaha.
Bibi Abako de. Yo. Mreno ko yenti e sha ase de ana ye hwe. Bi did send the what kakra suspended Chief Justice and some of the kind. Response of Felix Ofosu kwache so de amano. Yen sha ase wo ho.
Yo, Nicholas Senel Kanu Mreno ko. Na metie honorable kakra and Chief Justice ni press statement na near Misre abisa and say in this say no na ye suspended Chief Justice a person in Yamano. You see all can someone then or can send be a one or sina or pay charges yedi akoidu a yedi abonu wanyabi meanwhile one kasa na utro letter di ma man pedi say oh ma charges in and no di ma usi udi 1 week e di behwem nanka ni mraso ba udi sa obuo nu di ma o eno ma 10 days na waka ne obeka nyina o sa ka say onu de se obe resign de any book mo that agreed because uti ho Ghana entosi uni ho susu Ghana entosi ejuma esese yenye as Ghanaians no we are doing it in there mebisa say yen penyifo ayeye political actors and civil servants and public servants no asema mbisa ni say what are we teaching the young ones? And koda man, what are we teaching them? We go on air, ye can sema ushia say ye interrogate sansema unse efa and Ukraine. And what is the worry? So see resign. Stay there. You are staying there as a suspended Chief Justice. It is not my happiness. But the constitution of this country, no, and the kai, in some more can you say, oh, send ye are suspending a nimran, but you didn't quote or she didn't quote any article in the constitution. Say suspension ye ma no, an article we have bra. You didn't quote even one. Because I thought, was the time my year panel said, Ome Chief Justice, or see. Emranim neduma bedroom pensua wedrui. Do you get it right?
Yes.
That you know the law. Emranim nedum bedroom pensua wedrui. Now, oh yeah, allegations say no one famra article ba kumpe one famra. So how do you expect us to take you? Ukoko bo Nebukadnezar ni weni na Bible no Nebukadnezar ni Ohima Nebukadnezar your constitution, your constitution. Into Kobwa, what are you teaching the young ones? You told us law is law. Today you are complaining. You see, time a month for the petition Edia Bell as Chief Justice. Say, near electoral commissioner say ye be fruka akotro di ewo district capital no ka bre intinu mayen sisa asem ye di asem no bre no eda wan kasa wo hye be di asem no last day a Mensa register nipa eno any constitution no, but this is your persona utra ho edwin as a chief justice for this country no? This is your reasoning, and you look at it and the people that law is to lead she say abobra. So please, so unko resign now, you'll be there, you can be there. But I didn't learn anything from your press statement today. One chere adifu for bia, because ya kachre Ghana phone nyina ya yeta His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and NDC ya kachre Ghana phone nyina all shades of political party say munchre bebia ebia na mo His Excellency John Dramani Mahama tu ye no bebia enye no munchre montini enchre bi. So what is it about? And so Ghana for bebia ye dum, we are working according to what the constitution of this country. We see say open to me and now open to me so wasem. Do you get it right? So you just want to frustrate the sitting government. Now you say Mahama pressure. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is above your pressure. Take it. He is above. You can't give her pressure. Because in say what is happening in this country, the jobs are going, the businesses are going. This is near own person own can create. That is it. Because I saw somewhere that in this at the end of this June, inflation crown a better form. Why do you think that is happening? Because we have prudent managers managing the economy, and that is why we are in there. So you continue to cry, continue to do things that will frustrate the government, but the government will continue to work in the interest of the people of this country. You are mentioning a particular part of a Supreme Court. I say a honor you do cause a could do wasem. Inti a honor ya trase adu judges for one yekuomu. Ohima, you were Chief Justice for a number of years. What did you do about that particular chamber? So when say because as at 1982, how old are you? This I will say, how old are you? Look at that. So from that time that you were a young lady, you become a Chief Justice. What did you do about that particular chamber? You just want to cut slack on anything that this government is doing. But I don't think you are going to succeed. You didn't teach me, Honorable Daniel, because this evening you didn't teach me anything. As you said, the law is the law and the law. You didn't teach me anything. But we as leaders of this country, we should just be careful. Because for this nation to move forward, it means that we as elders must tell the truth. That truth is what the young ones want to learn from. And only in Kodano, SSM free. The truth must be there. Say it. And if with all these opportunities I am now, who will say 1982, and then ye been one kase, udio ya ubia betina sa kunya sunu. It is true. It is true. Because sebe kafra, se nipa be fini nkwande, ye nimse nya de ayede. You get it right. But wofa asemesi woni suntinu udi saflu koda bemu dia show mu sanse udi be distorted governance. That will not happen. I know your family feel the pains because it's a human being. Yes, I agree. Yes, I agree. I sympathize with them. But you are old enough to forget, to forgive and forget. Not to be remembering us of the bad things that happened yesterday. Talk about the good things that you want to achieve tomorrow. And that is what makes you an elder. That is how I see it. With all due respect to you. Intenu, me and my sister, 1 year there, one trivia the food from there. So resign here. Until now, I am sure acting Chief Justice, so others will juma. I am going to know juma no sir. Me say we are acting, but me here juma. So let us all be acting, but be working in the interest of the nation. And then I also said the topic be by Matisem before Kasafa Bank of Ghana.
Ono crowd and I mean Nobel. Minority caucus in Parliament. They are to say recent termination of 100 employees. You know, yeah, state to Omubium. Now, we share asema HR, the BGO, and I say Bank of Ghana, BOG, the Abetudra, or just say ye momo probation. To probation is 6 months. After 6 months, no more join any. No, my say,
that's all. But let me tell you, answer na mi bahano. I had an officer from Fair Wages and Salaries.
Okay, to us.
And in Komwa Yedi, or Tremi Adia na ewo mi trim. MPP for back kunjasum. I don't hate MPP people. I have friends in MPP. Back kunjasum. Omuma obisua. Omu shani certificate okitao. No mudi nwako se onko ye deputy director. Ana onko ye director. No mudi omwako jina impempensubia. Nepanu. It should have taken you a number of years of work in that particular institution to get to that level. The same thing that happened with Bank of Ghana. Because as at that time I have opposition, Minam Kroma, any bank friend I obey whom do you know their request? Oh, Nipocho, Guaminami Nkoshe Bank of Ghana. And I maybe someone say, a day Bank of Ghana. That's a dear grandma. And no wonder Anchebia. Addison bar 60.8 billion eka enoma braguho another one 10.5 billion oma braguho. So it tells you the type of people they just push into Bank of Ghana ayaboka and the intention of the MPP ni say nanka and then na omu nkro form push omu deputy directors no omu no be directors of that. So His Excellency John Dramani Mahama will be president, but the MPP people are directors of the institutions. When you see those things are you need to clear it. Do you get right? Not clearing it for clearing sake. Tio enunti no mudia probation. Say munye juma no na yenhwe. Do you know what the officer from the Fair Wages Academy also man reduce, not in Bank of Ghana, in so many institutions they have to reduce the people's levels at their back officer. Me wa deputy directors o ma jihu salary adi o ma jihu salary what the salary be will post no nyanso ho. Do you get it right? So now they have to work again and bring these people down to their normal level, because sometimes if say who you teacher here, you have to work for about 3 or 4 years to become assistant superintendent, another 3 or 4 years, another 3 or 4 years. Son of a could do director. Now MPP for by ya Obi Free University 1 year Juma 2 or 3 years straight to director. So they just jump the system down. Press conference, go and sit down and look at the rules and the procedures and the processes before you be making the noise. Yes, I've been in Parliament before. Please, Parliament is not always about making cacophonous noise. With all due respect to you, sit down and analyze situation before you make the noise. You organize the press conferences. I think that is what will help this country. But always talking everything this government do, we are putting things right and we must put things right. Nobody, we accept we are all Ghanaians and nobody hate anybody. But say a system, the institutions building, if we don't build it well, it goes a long way to affect the nation negatively. And that is what shouldn't happen. Today we are here. MPP for Kachre say, oh, see the new ember from a chese, we are sino kon nimna, we are sino kon nim sana nyamanuko. But under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama regime, with his able Governor of Bank of Ghana, Finance Minister, and everybody, CD Anya Honde. Do that as per dollar Anya Honde. So you ask yourself, what has caused the change? It is prudent management. It is prudent management. So to me, we need to build institutions. Let us strengthen the institutions and let us work well. Everybody should get job. Do you know what MPP do during their regime? People completed teacher training college. once a teacher trainees one of my graduates in ASU. They took NAPCO people. Once teacher trainees have completed school and they are sitting in the house, no, nana do no more posting NAPCO for my secondary school. Oman ko training no, e dey ato even me chrome. Say omun ko chiradi. Once the teachers who have completed teacher training college, they are in the house. Today you are leading people and you are organizing press conferences, but you did not interrogate your management of that system. You've forgotten about it. But that is what happens. And I'm sure Ghanaians remember the NAPCO days. A trainer can have to sack them. Audio Muka 9 months. These people were in the classroom teaching, but they were not trained teachers. Trained teachers who completed school, took their allowances, were in the house, not posted. That is the type of the system one. Majadima, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. And we need to work on that. And I'm very, very sure my able Minister of Education, Honorable Haruna.
Yes. Breaking news here, say former NAFCO boss Abdul Wahab arrested by ECO over financial misconduct.
Yes. We can some community some be chom kran me see omundi kanya announcement na mo akobi some omundi kanya announcement once ndra na njo so much obi nu yes look, this is the way we should go, and I, as I'm sitting down here, I must also learn from this experience. It's true, so that we work well in the interest of the nation. Yes. Yes, that is what I'm saying. So, it should be a lesson to all of us. Na ejumanu ye Ghana for say ye ejumanu ya Ghana be de. So at this particular point, we are inviting all hands on deck. One no more Ghana or Pepper say ye juma. The Minister for Lands and Natural Kofi Amabua, he is also working very hard, and the strategies they are adopting. One say or manu. Omoko Julia na show big excavator nipa no so besa kwa akotobi na meeting ka say ubekwa akoto wo hi na one omudi excavators back room hanu ye chi excavator no habo. Do you get it right? And that is the good thing, because before the forest or the trees will fall, it is an equipment that will pull them down. In this nipa no di machine no ba Ghana ye be bisa no say Hifa ana ekwe bena onaba gboja the road minister ma se kona kotra se won bo kwan no di nko ade a end the excavator no engineer hifa to mahabo. I think that is the way we should move on with all the appointees and the ministers and all that we are doing. We need your prayers as Ghanaians. Mungwayen na yenye jumanu na omanu enye ye. Enye se yebe ta obi ana yebe saki obi ana yebe chi obi akotum keke. Those that they are inviting, even though this person has been arrested, onkonko kana no asem enye sa okana no asem ya obe kofie. And I think that is what we must all learn from. All hands of deck is a better Ghana, and no nebema omanu ayeye.
Joe, I'm say medi obiomie endi samayeko. Sisi wa bemu. Na endi samayeko wa bemu a. You said the biggest opposition party NPP.
Yeah.
And the DBA also say party no or more opposition or more engineer cry affect mo wa bemu no.
Yeah.
Was almost criticism to be a whole better. Now you went in never be cause or more party no more. Na hard really. As MPP say nyame adoma January 2026 na omo presidential primaries and in December about and the video bi am hu ya akobne Japan crash say on wan kasa say na tiu na ya some kind of no ka say ya no omo presidential primaries and san omako omo na polling station
executive
and so ma baba constituency and so ma fo about national.
What we say? We management, a dictator.
But you be crazy on Dr. Actor Kennedy. Okay. You buy Anna. Well, concluded. You Dr. Actor Kennedy, bra. Dr. Actor Kennedy here ready. I am quitting.
You see, so we management. If you have a dictator leader,
I am sure that they are good men and women their hearts are in the right place, but their brains are in the wrong place. I think they were consulting the same people they were talking to who were telling them who were going to win in a landslide. I think this is a very bad decision, doesn't serve the party well, and like the speaker said, it's anti-democratic, because for general principles as well as even the party's own principles, that it generally does not make sense to select your flag bearer that early in an election cycle when the government that came in would have spent barely a year in office. The issues that will be salient in the next election have not developed yet. And historically, most parties don't do that. If you think about it, if the Republicans had chosen Trump, or they had chosen a candidate in 2022 for 2024, it would not have been Trump, because he was very unpopular. But as the election cycle developed, he gained traction because his message seemed to resonate with the issues. After all, we don't vote in a vacuum. In 1860, Lincoln wasn't very popular when the cycle started. By the time it came around, slavery was coming to the fore and it was getting stronger. Jimmy Carter wouldn't have been the candidate if they voted in 1973. By 76, he was a strong candidate. And not only that, the MPP's own history. You look at the Hyman Committee in 2009 and the Safumafu Committee in 2020 have all strongly suggested that we broaden the franchise so more people can vote. And it actually in 2010 or so, I was in the room when Nana Ado and Alanche Martin and all those people committed to ask the young ones that one man, one vote was coming during the next election, and a decade later, it hasn't come. It will seem as if there are some people who are afraid of everybody voting. So when I see all those people going through contorted arguments about how we should add former chairman and this boy like Kwabena Japan, I will ask him, why are we afraid of letting everybody vote?
It's Dr. Arthur Kennedy, the Kano, or a founder member of the New Patriotic Party.
Yo, why are we afraid to allow everybody to vote? What's wrong? And when say, Tio, make us say, one say Prudent Station executive said to us, say, Baumia neto during Nanado's time. You get me right? It is a say a train say, or what time entry mansana. Yasa atwa abafo from na beba say Canada Japan be kwakoto the polling station agent no ana Brian be kwakoto polling station agent no omuso enti chinchidia and the dictatorship strategy the top down approach instead of from the polling station executives at the course room. But for this is MPP we have the working contradiction. Say all the administration send person elections but when be Mr. Kevin Taylor last of the picture be by make no pense Ghana for Baumia person sada mi hunu oda bi mu say no pa tio say no pa na Kevin Taylor yi kire ni city room ti say football park Ghana for mu yi sade no bra Kevin Taylor mu fa sa picture no fa mbra because Baumia sha say ka kire Ghana for say ye hiani na dem pa mi hu Baumia. In fact, King Charles Kura Palace Kura wa brochire no entisa edan mo mu say okumase inti sadan mu manye yi 10 bia na mfa Baumia mfa ntunchen ansa na Baumia sanam kromu ka kire Ghana for say onu de o hiani Baumia nyo hiani o Baumia person dadaye ba Ghana for misremu because da ye be Ghana ya ma Baumia de endie adia Baumia de be yo manu because sitting in that sitting room, that huge sitting room like what sports stadium in a dining akonjani inside go ho amanfo nu a obesa ka kire say oyohiani is an insult inti misremu. Don't let us listen to the MPP no omwankasa musika na ebeku omo, and that is what they have started. and this thing a bedroom court pay. Do you get me right? Also Canada Japan ban or kasa. Yes, because you shouldn't allow not that ope and sen kekakeke. Do the thing the right way. 4 years. Now say way about me as presidential candidate we are constituency.
But I don't know kasa momo can say momo ye to favor Baumia.
And then I make say we Baumia we are and now call election police station agents are. Now onu dia no ba be and now constituency executives dia no mo ba be because still now you see first now sika any election but say na kada ni koko into so bia edika ko tu koko ti say wa ko vote e di ama presidential candidate we are ansa na ye ko tu so aba wo dia wo koko mu ifa na obetim so bia ti adi dada in dem before misrem Ghana nyina de mamu mpini. But some opinions are there because we know that will be the beginning of the end for the MPP. And there is some baby brave and amount for MPP to cry. Into me, mamia, oh, Timmy, your friend, Sister Mercy, or say, Brofudo Sudodo. And I
we join force.
Oh, we join for the job of Governor. Oh. Complimentary education.
Mamenda, the acting executive director, Edema, a complimentary education agency, and Kane from non-formal. Honorable Daniel Kwesia Shaman, Yendana Sepapa, you suke de boating betray my so, Wambasho, no so, copy bensa so, every boy, Chito, Menda Mr. Kelvin Asante, say, Peter, Peter, any friend is saying. Rough na abas shows ke you abas shows ke you window on the swasi member cameras window Kofi any Francis swasi menda ye nua ba gifty offer bia so ha enye easy kra ne dressing on saha you enti